All right, today we're going to dig into a question that seems so simple you probably think you already know the answer. Where does a tree come from? But stick with me because the real story, well, it's way more magical than you'd ever guess.
Okay, so really think about this for a second. Picture a huge, like a 10-ton oak tree. All that wood, that bark, the leaves, all that mass. Where did it all come from? Seriously, just take a moment. What's your gut reaction? Where did the actual stuff of the tree originate? Now, if you said from the ground or from the soil, you are in good company. I mean, that's what pretty much everyone thinks. It makes perfect logical sense, right? Except it's completely wrong. Yeah, you heard me.
You know, this whole idea that trees just eat the soil to get bigger, we can call it a beautiful misunderstanding. It's a nice, neat explanation that feels right, but man, does it miss out on the real, incredible story.
I mean, it's just common sense, isn't it? You put a tiny little seed into the dirt and this giant thing comes out. It has to be using the dirt as its raw material. It's kind of like putting flour in a bowl to make a cake. The cake is made of the flour, so the tree must be made of the soil, right?
Well, common sense and science don't always line up. And luckily for us, a really brilliant scientist from way back in the 1600s, a guy named Jan Baptista van Helmont, he decided to put this very idea to the test. And he came up with this just genius, super simple experiment to get to the bottom of it.
So, here's what he did, and the beauty is in how simple it was. He took a big pot and filled it with exactly 200 pounds of soil that he'd baked in an oven to make sure it was totally dry. Then, he planted a little 5-pound willow sapling in it. For 5 whole years, he just watered it, nothing else, just pure water. He even covered the soil so nothing else could fall in. And then, after 5 years, it was time for the big reveal.
So after all that patient waiting, he very carefully pulled the now large tree out, shook off every last bit of dirt, and got out his scales. He weighed the tree, and he weighed the soil again. And the numbers he wrote down, they weren't just a little surprising. They were about to change everything.
Okay, first up, the tree. It started at 5 pounds, right? Well, now it weighed over 169 pounds. That's a gain of 164 pounds of solid tree. I mean, think about that. That's more than a person weighs. All that physical stuff, it seemed like it was made from thin air.
So the big question, where did those 164 pounds come from? If the tree was eating the soil should be 164 pounds lighter. It has to be. But when Van Helmont put the soil back on the scale, he found it had lost just 2 ounces. 2 ounces! That's practically nothing. And right there, in that moment, the entire trees are made of soil idea just crumbled.
So there it is, clear as day. The hypothesis was that trees are made from soil. The reality? No way. The experiment proved it. The tree's mass could not have possibly come from the soil. So that beautiful misunderstanding? Gone. Which, of course, leads to a brand new, even bigger question. If the tree isn't made from the ground, what is it made of?
Now, Van Helmont, being a sharp guy, figured it had to be the water. That was the only other thing he added after all. And he was right. But he was also missing a huge piece of the puzzle. The biggest ingredient, the most important one, was completely invisible. It was literally in the air all around him.
And this is where we get to a word we all learned in science class, photosynthesis. But I want you to forget the textbook definition for a second. Think of it like this. Photosynthesis isn't just a plant eating sunlight. It's a plant constructing itself. It's a factory that takes sunlight, water, and an invisible gas, carbon dioxide, and uses them to build its own body.
This is the part that is just so wild. A tree is mostly carbon, right? Well, it gets that carbon by literally pulling it out of the air. It breathes in carbon dioxide, uses sunlight as energy to crack the molecule open, and then uses those carbon atoms, like Lego bricks, to build solid wood. It's unbelievable.
So let's go back to our recipe. What is a tree really made of? Forget the soil. The true recipe is the sky and the rain. That's it, powered by the sun. It is literally life built from thin air.
And the numbers back this up completely. Just look at this breakdown. If you take a tree and dry it out, about 45% of its mass is carbon from the air. Another 45% is oxygen from the air and water. So that's 90% right there. Hydrogen from water adds another 6%. So what about the soil? All those important nutrients? Well, they're absolutely crucial for life, but they only make up about 4% of the tree's total weight. Almost the entire tree is just solidified air and water.
I mean, when you really let that sink in, it's basically alchemy. It's magic on a global scale. Every single forest, every park, every tree on your street is the result of this unbelievable trick, taking something you can't even see, a gas in the sky, and turning it into something as real and solid as a forest.
So the next time you're walking outside, look at a tree. I mean, really look at it. And remember, you're not looking at something that grew up from the ground. You're looking at something that was pulled down from the sky. And that leaves us with one last question to chew on. If trees are built from the sky, what exactly are we breathing?